Hello and welcome to Org 405 Volunteer Management. My name is Dr. Steve Jante. I'm an adjunct faculty with City Vision. Going to walk you through the course objectives and outcomes, the assignments, and give an overview of where the course is headed in the weeks to come as you undertake this term. The course follows a constructionist approach to learning. The idea is that you learn by building, that the course is built around a major project that you will endeavor to take a piece by piece, week by week, so that at the end of the course, you will have assembled a volunteer management toolkit that thinking through the variety of topics involved in effective volunteer management. Each week, there will be some reading assignments. We'll review the textbooks momentarily, as well as some other occasional reading assignments. There are videos to watch each week that'll supplement the learning and give a different take on some of the topics. There's discussions where you'll interact with your classmates and with the faculty to think through the topics, apply them to your case organization. And in this course, we have provided a wide variety of tools and templates. We're not asking you to begin from zero, from scratch. We are given a variety of templates that you'll be able to modify and develop and use for the various assignments as we go. But all of that, again, is building towards this major project that you're going to learn by doing the project. Need to start with a definition of volunteering. When we say volunteering, what is it that we mean? This is really an important concept. The first is that volunteering is used both as a verb and a noun. So we need to differentiate when we use the term as a verb versus a noun. What do we mean? As a verb, as a working definition, this is from Energize Inc. It's to choose to act in recognition of a need with an attitude of social responsibility without concern for monetary profit, going beyond one's basic obligations. There's kind of four pieces of that definition. It's the decision to act. You seeing a need and move into that act. You're doing it from an attitude of responsibility, social responsibility, of needing to participate, help make people's lives, make the world better, without a concern for monetary profit, that is not getting paid, and going beyond one's basic obligations. It's going above and beyond the basic expectations. So that's as a verb. You'll notice that the noun even is kind of divided into two, from the perspective of the doer and from the perspective of the organization, the recipient of the service. The volunteer, from the perspective of the doer, is someone who gives his time, effort, and talent to a need or cause without profiting monetarily. Again, takes that same verb definition and modifies it to be the noun form. And then finally, from the perspective of the recipient of the service, is someone who contributes time, effort, and talent to meet a need or further a mission without going on the payroll, without getting paid. Okay, and one more, and this is an important concept to understand where the course is going. In volunteer management, we differentiate between episodic volunteering and ongoing volunteering. Episodic volunteering is those one-time, one-off events where people sign up to help. It's usually just a single time, a single commitment, event or project based. It does not really facilitate a relationship between the volunteer and the organization, but they say, hey, I'm going to come, and I'm a volunteer signs up to come and help. Whether it be, I'm going to come serve from 10 to 12 at a meal packing event, or I'm going to come and participate in a community cleanup day. Those are one-off, one-time events that we refer to as episodic volunteering. While important, this course is really going to focus on the other side of, and that is ongoing volunteering. Those regular recurring times of service where people serve in a role over a longer period of time. They're connected to the organization's mission. really facilitating a relationship between the volunteer and the organization. Examples here would be whether it be serving on the first Sunday of every month in the nursery at church. It could be serving in the info desk at the hospital when you go in and you ask, hey, I'm here to see so-and-so. The person you're talking to, they're going to give you the room number, is a volunteer that may be signing up to come and work from 11 to 3 every Tuesday afternoon. That is an example of an ongoing volunteer relationship. And the way that you manage volunteers in that context of an ongoing relationship, it will be the primary focus of this course. So while episodic volunteering is valuable, it's important, it's not going to be the emphasis here. We're looking more at how to build effective ongoing volunteer relationships. So that sets the stage to then be able to look at the stages of the volunteer life cycle. This is adapted from the volunteer stages and transitions model by Haskell, Leventhal, and Bargle. They talk about the nominee phase. That is the phase where somebody's outside of the organization, but thinking about coming in. From the organization's perspective, you need to be asking, what roles could a volunteer actually serve? What are the ways that a volunteer could participate in our organization? And then to start to think through, how are we going to advertise the role? How are we going to define the role? Putting together a volunteer job description so that people know what it is that they are agreeing to. Those are kind of in this nominee phase of when an organization is going to go and find their volunteers. The new volunteer stage looks at those volunteers that have said, okay, I'd like to be a part. How do you start to bring them on? The onboarding process, the training process, the screening process, background checks and reference checks, make sure that they are a good fit, that they're going to be safe to work with your populations. And then you hit this period of emotional involvement and established volunteering. These are the period where your volunteers are going to be most effective. They know what it is that's being expected of them. They're coming and they're doing it because they love the role. And the role of the volunteer manager at that point is to encourage them, seek to retain them as a volunteer, acknowledge their effectiveness and their contributions, to acknowledge and appreciate them as volunteers. And then you get to the next piece, which the retiring, the exiting from the organization. This kind of follows two different paths. Volunteers either leave on their own because they sense a kind of a shift. It may be that they're moving out of town, maybe that we're involved in serving in a youth sports organization, but their kid has aged out of that organization. Natural transition points. On the other hand, there's times where an organization needs to move a volunteer out, either because they're not a good fit, they're not representing the organization well, they're not accomplishing the task that they had been assigned to, whatever the case may be. And so when it comes to exiting the organization, we're going to look at both of those paths. Okay, so 4 course outcomes that we want to highlight here. The first, describe how your organization manages volunteers as well as the value that volunteers provided the organization. So for this major project, you're going to identify a local nonprofit that you're going to be in connection with and communication with throughout the course, getting to know the organization, their policies, and applying the course concepts to this case organization. And so the first outcome is, how does your organization currently operate? What value does the organization see in having volunteers participate? And what are they hoping volunteers might be able to do? The second course outcome is to develop approaches to recruiting, onboarding, retaining, developing, evaluating, and exiting volunteers from the organization. Again, walking through the whole volunteer life cycle. How do you move volunteers through that process? Course outcome number 3, to establish risk management practices for your volunteers that limits risk to the volunteers, to the clients they serve, to the staff of the organization, to the organization itself. And the final is to develop a comprehensive volunteer toolkit that provides a synthesis of all the components needed to run an effective volunteer management program. That is, we're going to put it all together in this volunteer management toolkit that allows you to demonstrate all that you have learned throughout the course. Week by week, this course is going to follow a process. Week 1 is why people volunteer, and look at how it is that people come to be involved in your organization. Why is it that people volunteer in general? Week 2 is preparing for volunteers and finding them. Again, this is how do you prepare the organization to be ready for volunteers to serve, as well as how are you going to go and find where are you going to recruit? How are you going to recruit volunteers? Week 3, onboarding volunteers well. This will look at an onboarding process, training processes, but special attention given to background screenings. How do you protect the clients that you're serving by being thoughtful, deliberate, and careful about those that you are bringing in to serve your clients, especially if your organization serves vulnerable or at-risk populations. Week 4 is going to be deploying and empowering your volunteers. How do you get them going, being effective in their roles? How do you develop policies and procedures that are going to guide the actions of volunteers? And how do you consider the risk management pieces of a volunteer management program, such that a volunteer is being additive to the organization, but knows the boundaries, that the organization is aware of the risks, what are the potential liabilities that the organization has, and how can we mitigate those to the extent possible. Week 5, retaining your best volunteers. This is a kind of a fun unit to consider. When a volunteer is in your organization, how do you help them thrive? How do you encourage them? How do you appreciate them so that they want to continue to serve in your organization? Week 6 is volunteer exit strategies. Volunteer exit strategy, you're going to look at the 2 paths of when the volunteer wants to or needs to move on of their own accord, and the other is when the organization needs to move a volunteer out of the role if they're not succeeding in the role, if there is some danger, whatever the case may be. How does an organization think about firing somebody that they're not paying in a volunteer? A challenging topic there. Week 7, volunteering and development. This will look at the connection between volunteering and fundraising. For many organizations, they actually put their volunteer management program under their development program as a subset of the development program. And so it's going to be looking at how does volunteer service and the giving of money, the connection between those two. And then week 8 is going to ask about evaluating your volunteers and your volunteer programs. So you want to be able to evaluate your volunteers. How is that volunteer doing? As well as how is our program doing? Are we being effective? Are we accomplishing what we as an organization hope to accomplish through our volunteers? So that's the 8-week flow of the course. There's 2 required readings for this textbooks for this course. The first is Managing Volunteers, How to Maximize Your Most Valuable Resource. Again, these are both pretty simple reads, but highly valuable reads. And the second is The New Breed, Understanding and Equipping the 21st Century Volunteer. This is a unique book for this course because it is written kind of focused on youth ministry in the local church, but hits on a lot of important concepts to ask. How do we effectively lead Christian volunteers, and will be part of understanding what makes Christian volunteering distinct. So along the way of that, what makes this course unique or distinct? The 3 things that I would like to highlight. The first is the practical relevance and the tools. That in this course, we are going to provide lots of tools so that it is practically relevant to you and to your organization that you're studying. Well, the theory is going to be couched within how can a volunteer manager use this. And that's why we're providing a lot of tools and a lot of templates and a lot of examples for you to consider. The second is the discussion of the connection between volunteering and development and fundraising. As I just mentioned a moment ago, we're going to look at the connection between giving and serving in a nonprofit. This is very unique. This is not covered in most volunteer management conversations. You'll notice even that none of the reading for that week comes from either of the textbooks, because that is not a common topic, but one that we at City Vision will think will be really very helpful to you, to think about that connection. We think that is part of what makes this course unique. And then finally, the specific application to Christian nonprofits and ministries, that Christian service is distinct from just trying to do something good that you may see and encounter in other organizations. And so we think the emphasis on Christian service and volunteering is distinct in this course. The course rubric, this is particularly for the final project, would be really helpful for you to understand. 70% is the practical usefulness and value to the organization. From the perspective of the organization's executive director or board member, if you were to take your volunteer management toolkit at the end of the term and give it to a member of the organization, would they be able to use it? Would they be able to say, wow, there's some great stuff, we can start implementing this right away? That's what we're looking for. And if you're using the templates, which we encourage you to do, that's why they're being provided. Have you modified it? Have you customized that? Are you demonstrating that you are applying those uniquely to your course organization? That's 70%. The second 20% is the mastery of course concepts. Certainly, we want you to understand the course concepts themselves, but we really think that that's going to show through in the first part there, the practical usefulness and value to the organization. If you are able to demonstrate that you have a toolkit that is useful to your organization, along the way, you're going to be demonstrating that you understand the concepts as well. And the third is the professionalism of the writing. When you hand this off to the board member, to the executive director, are they going to be distracted from poor grammar writing, or is the presentation, your writing, adding to your assignment, to that toolkit, and engaging that board member, that executive director, drawing them into the usefulness of your document for them? And so with that, I want to just show you real briefly the final project template. What you're going to want to do, there's all kinds of instructions here, kind of sets it up. The premise is that your supervisor, so you're going to go and pick a local nonprofit, Christian organization, a non-government organization, and connect with that organization to use it for a case study. And you're going to be putting together this toolkit that you'd be able to hand off potentially to the organization at the end of the term. And so say the executive director of that organization has asked you to put together a volunteer management toolkit that they could use. That's the assignment. And week by week, you're going to be building so that at the end of the course, you will have this whole document that you can put together. The final project should demonstrate revisions from the faculty member, from your instructor throughout the term as you get feedback on the week by week assignments, to demonstrate that you're integrating that feedback into your assignment when you put the whole thing together. But you're going to want to make a copy of this. You're going to want to download it and upload like a Word document into Canvas so that it is ready to go. Again, has the what we just covered in terms of the rules of how the final project is going to be graded and evaluated. And then you get the title page, and then we've got here the week by week of the 8 weeks assignments that you're going to be building week by week. The instructions for each week are in this document of what you're going to do, and you're going to submit those week by week, with the goal that at the end of the course, you are ready to submit the whole project for review. So that is a walkthrough of the volunteer management course of the 8 weeks, provides some of the framework of what you're going to be learning and studying and doing. Hope that you learn and grow through the study of volunteer management, and that all of our organizations are able to grow and better serve our constituencies because of what you learn in this course. God bless.